Hi everyone, welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas. I'm Teddy Atlas III, and joined as always, Boxing Hall of Famer, my main man, the amazing Kreskin, Teddy Atlas. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. Thinking about Denzel Washington a little bit for a minute, one of his movies. My man! My man. My man. My man. I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. To all our audience, people out there, hope you all had a great, safe, and bountiful Thanksgiving with family, friends, people that care about you. I had a great one. I was missing my man, but my man was on the West Coast with his in-laws and his son, his wife, his in-laws over there. But he'll be here for Christmas, right? Right, my man?
That's right. Christmas and the New Year.
I was down at my daughter's with my wife for Thanksgiving, and it was really special. It was with my 3 other grandchildren down there. And we were there with Nicole's husband's brother's family, Michael and Denise. They just moved into a new house, and it was very nice. So again, just saying, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving and had a moment to think about what they should be grateful for, and really grateful for always. Because if you just, sometimes we think about what we don't have, and we're human. It's a human characteristic to think about what more can we have, you know. In some ways it's positive, it drives us. Some ways it can be not as positive. It can make us forget about what we already have and who we already have, that really is most important. Not what we have, but who we have in our lives. They care about us, and that we care about them. That's truly a gift, and that's something to be thankful for. So, without further ado, I will give it over to somebody I'm thankful for. I'm thankful to be able to read the letters on. I feel like I'm in getting an eye test in the Department of Motor Vehicles. I'm testing myself. As you get older, you test yourself. Can I read as well as I used to read? And I'm reading those letters on my son's sweatshirt, and I'm thankful I can read them pretty much, not 100%, but I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit like the great Harry Greb. Not as great as Harry Greb was, the Pittsburgh windmill, but doing some of the tricks that Harry Greb used to continue fighting 100+ fights with one eye. He memorized the eye charts. So when he would get his eye test, he read it knowing what it was. So we live in a fire. We are comfortable in a fire. I hope I read that right. We are firemen. We live in a fire. I added on a little bit, okay? I'm the original.
Hey, you can't be calling yourself the great Harry Greb when you have 2 eyes vision perfectly, not one.
That's true.
You didn't get the test right, and it's your answers to the test.
That's
we are
true.
firemen. We live in the heat.
We are firemen. We live in the heat.
You failed the test.
I hope I pass the rest of it. Let's continue. And I hope I pass going forward. And I want to say one quick thing to all the people out there that are part of our family, whether it's on the ropes, that I like to call our family, the community that you have built, the subscription base, or it's just on our YouTube station here with our family of 325,000, people in the audience that are here. I went for a test, not an eye test. I went for a test with a pulmonary doctor last week. Top guy. I'm so blessed that I could get to him. And for the people out there that have been concerned about the wheezing, the breathing issues with me, I just want to address it real fast. I'm a pretty private person. But when you're in a public audience and a public eye, sometimes you can't be as private as you would like to be because you're in a public audience where people notice things. And you have noticed that over the last year. And many of you are concerned, and you've sent out messages to us, and my son always tells me, of concern for me. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I thank God that besides the people close to me, my family and friends, I have others that also care. And then there's others that, I get it. You get annoyed by it. And you wonder, you wonder why it's happening. So I finally got an answer. I'm going to need some surgery. It's got to do with my larynx. There's a weakness in my larynx. I'm going to need a surgery. No big deal. These things are done now through robots. They make a few holes in your stomach, and I already got a few holes there. So maybe they can go in the same, same hole. I don't think so. But they go in there with like 4 different holes, and they go in there and they strengthen. They put materials around the larynx to hopefully strengthen it. So I don't know when I'll be getting it. Hopefully soon. They're working on that now. But again, I just wanted to, because it's out there. People have noticed it. People have. And you know what? I get pissed at myself because I didn't know if it was mental. I didn't know if it was emotional. And everything to me is about control, about being disciplined, about being strong, about, being toughing it out. And I was pissed. That, Teddy, what's wrong with you? Toughen it out. Don't show it. Control it. Stop it. Because I think the mind can stop most things. And sometimes I have been able to control it better and stymie it, but not to the full extent that I wanted to and needed to be the best that I can be. And I want to be the best I can be for you, for all of you, and for myself, for my family. So anyway, that's it. That's the little report there. And now, let's talk about this. Maybe a star was born, or a star is being born over in the UK.
Yeah, let's do it. But I appreciate you sharing that and everybody's thoughts and prayers and always your honesty. And you didn't have to share that, but thank you. And let's get it going, but let's get right into the fights. Like you said, over in the UK, we had a special attraction. It was in the light heavyweight division. That was Ben Whittaker versus Ben Gavassi. Now, 2 fights ago, Ben Whittaker had a lot of controversy. Some people, we were there, sitting in Saudi Arabia, ringside at the fight. He fought Liam Cameron. Some say he jumped out of the ring. Some say he was pushed out of the ring. At the end of the day, he could not continue. He said it was an ankle injury. It was a foot injury. Became a technical decision draw. After that fight, he did go a different route, and he searched out a new trainer in Andy Lee. He rematched Liam Cameron, and he won that fight easily by second-round knockout. He's now just gone on and fought Ben Gavassi. Only took him 1 round to take care of Gavassi. And you said it best. After the fight, you put up a tweet, put it all over your social media, and I loved it. You said a well-placed punch on a well-placed opponent. Attention-grabbing. and it is grabbing a lot of attention. I just want to hear first your thoughts and piggyback off of that before I get into what's next for Ben Whittaker.
Yeah, I mean, you set it up beautifully. Quite frankly, in that fight 2 fights ago against Liam Cameron, it would be accurate to just say that Ben Whittaker literally escaped defeat. I mean, he escaped defeat. He saw defeat coming, perhaps. I'm not in his mind and body. I'm not. But perhaps, but I've been around 50 years. Perhaps. All that matters is what he's done now, and I salute him. He looks good. But before I get to the evaluation of that a little deeper, he potentially escaped defeat by getting out of the ring or helping himself to fall out of the ring, not avoiding it, and then not continuing. Maybe his ankle was real bad and he couldn't. Fine. He didn't. That's the bottom line. But what also was evident was up to that point, it looked like he was being broken down physically and mentally. I mean, you can't deny that. Liam Cameron was onto him that night. And it was a different Whittaker. A Whittaker that showboated more, a Whittaker that pulled back from punches more, a Whittaker that did more Roy Jones stuff. Not everybody can do Roy Jones stuff. Not everybody has the reflexes, the confidence, the amateur background, to that level. I mean, I know Whittaker had a good amateur background, but not everybody can break the rules like Muhammad Ali and Roy Jones and get away with it, doing things that are not in the boxing textbook, dropping your hands, pulling back, all that stuff, timing, being so perfect. So he came back from that. My first thing as far as this fight, it's time to step up the opposition. That'll be one thing that I think is clear for me. I'll tell you the most superlative thing I can say about this performance. It's not what he did. He did that against a lesser opponent or lesser talent. I want to see it against better, but I want to give him credit. Like I used to give Mike Tyson credit when he was blowing out guys on his way up. That were guys that he was supposed to blow out. It was not what he was doing because he was so far superior. That was impressive. It's how he was doing it. I think it's fair to give him really a glowing grade on how he did it. He placed his punches well. He timed his punch. He had good eyes, good hand speed, good power. But he was able to direct the punches to the right places in that ring, in that moment. He even stepped with his opponent as his opponent stepped back or fell back. He didn't reach. He didn't get overexcited. He didn't get over anxious. He stepped with him, had his feet under him, and put the punch. And he placed punches to the body twice that were beautifully placed punches at the right time. So it wasn't what he did that was impressive to me against a level of opponent that he should do that with. It's how he went about it. He went about it like a budding artist that, draws a flower. And a lot of people could draw that flower. It's not the hardest thing to do. It's a flower. It's a common thing. But it's the way he drew it. The little highlights of light here and there. The little extra line here and there that he put in the drawing of that flower that made you think maybe I'm looking at a future great artist. Maybe. So what I like what's been done with Whittaker since Andy Lee came along, he's not pulling back. He's not breaking the rules as much. He's sitting down on his punches. Part of the reason why he's getting more effect. Plus, look, again, I'll go back to the level of opponent. It helps against a lesser level opponent to, it's easier to be explosive and that efficient against a lesser opponent. But still, you have to have the acumen, the ability to still do things a certain way. I like the way that Andy Lee has settled him down, sitting down more, controlling range better. He's doing things in a more pro-oriented way and a effective way with his reach, his ability, everything else. So I love all of that. Yeah, I'll go back to what I said initially. It's time to step up, baby. It's time to step up. We'll find out, what. But before we even step up, and I know my son's going to drill me with a few questions on who it should be and when. But before we even go there, let's not go crazy. He's only got a short amount of fights. What's his record now, Bud? Whittaker's record?
Yeah, he's now 10 wins, 0 losses with the 1 draw we touched on to Liam Cameron.
He's got 11 fights.
He's 28 years old, and he's also the silver Olympic medalist at the 2020 Olympic Games. Gervasi obviously was not at that level, had never fought outside of his home country of Germany, made the travel over to the UK, and he was a fish out of water. What I want to ask you, and what you just led into, Bud, is the attention grabbing. People get carried away, rightfully so. They get excited. They see this knockout. Teddy, is he ready for Benavidez? Is he ready for Bivol? Is he ready for Better Beef? But you just said it. He's only got 10 wins in 11 pro fights. What I want to know is if you were managing him, if you're moving him along, what makes the most sense next? Is it an Anthony Yard? Is it an old fighter of yours, former world champion Alex Vozick? Is it guys like Buatsi? Is that the path? Is he not ready for them yet? I want to hear your thoughts on what is next in the path for him.
Buatsi would be interesting because Buatsi would try. He can't match him with speed and just pure ability. But where Buatsi can try to take him and match him and overmatch him and defeat him, if he can defeat him, would be with steady, relentless physical presence and pressure to try to break him down physically and mentally, to test him in those waters to see if he can swim in those waters or he's still not ready to go into that deep end of the pool. So that would be interesting. I wouldn't automatically say no, but I might want one more fight before Buatsi. The other two, Yard, he's a little shop-worn. He's still dangerous that he can punch, but he's shop-worn a little bit. That might be an avenue. You do worry about the power, but that might be an avenue to go. My former fighter, Vozick, who we won a light heavyweight title against Adonis Stevenson, he'd be interesting. I think he would be also someone who could challenge him a little bit and take him into the deep waters. And you do need to eventually go into deep waters before you go into the ocean. With the guys that I won't even mention their names right now because they are the ocean. They are the ocean. I'm not going into Bivol and Better Beef and, and some of those guys. Obviously, Benavidez, not yet. So I'll finish with this, that you said it right. People, they get excited. They right away jump the gun. Oh my God. I remember what I did the fights for all those years, and that was my job on ESPN. I remember the guy next to me would say, "Oh my God! Oh, holy smolies! Wow!" And then I'd let him finish spitting all over me a little bit. I spit too a little bit, and calm down. And then I would say, "Okay, but let's take into consideration, who did he just beat? Was it a guy worthy of holy schmoly, kamoli, daholi, kahali, babali? Was it really, really a guy that you can react and go that far out there that he just destroyed?" You have to consider, when you hear a story from someone, what's that age-old saying, bud, that you hear people say to you? Consider the source. Really? Consider the source. People will say, well, so-and-so said this, and so-and-so said that. And then you get a wise old head. And the wise old head would say, Teddy, consider the source. Well, consider the level of opponent before you go into too many holy schmoly, kamoli, kahali, bawoli. Before you go, we got to get a shirt made with that, by the way. Before you go into that many of those, consider the opponent. The English commentators did the same thing. They did the same thing. I get it. It happens. People can't control themselves. They go nuts. The only thing better with the English commentators when they do it, I got to be honest, I don't mind it as much because I love their accent. I love their accent. So I don't get as, annoyed with it. But we do have to temper our enthusiasm in those kind of things. We really do. I mean, that would be like Tom Brady throwing 22 touchdown passes against a high school football team. I think that maybe the commentator would say, what? It was a high school football team, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. But this is the last thing I want to ask you to piggyback off of that. When you just said Tom Brady and versus high school football team, there's things there to always be able to project and predict for the future. And as a scout in the NFL, that was my job for 14 years. You got to be able to find something and see something that nobody else could see, even when it's a mismatch, even when it's Ben Gavassi in there. So I want to ask you this, with the holy schmolies and getting carried away, when somebody says, hey, Olympic silver medalist, I see the speed, I see the flashiness, I see some similarities to a Roy Jones Jr. What do you say to that based off of fighting Ben Gavassi? Could he become that? How do you project that?
I say, I saw Roy Jones and some of the potential, whether it was Roy Jones, whether it was Sugar Ray Leonard, whether it was Oscar De La Hoya. Yes, I invoked Oscar De La Hoya's name there. He was a hell of a fighter. What I saw the difference with those guys, all similar with talent, great amateur backgrounds, Olympic pedigree, all of that. When I saw those guys early in their career, they were fighting higher opposition, even at those stages. I remember Oscar De La Hoya fighting John Molina, former lightweight champ of the world, and beat him. And it was pretty early in his career. So that's how I differentiate that, bud. And that's a good question you asked me. And you put me on the hot seat. And it's the right place to put me. But that's my answer. That I saw that potential in those fighters you just mentioned, whether it's Jones, me, I mentioned De La Hoya, I mentioned Sugar Ray Leonard, some obviously great fighters. But I was already seeing that kind of potential with better opposition. So I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, I see some of that, but I'm not seeing it with the better opposition yet. It's kind of like you were a great scout, and you would see guys that showed greatness or potential greatness. But if they were doing it against, North Valley State instead of Ohio State, you'd say, Bud, I just saw this guy and I got to see more of him. First thing you would tell me, I got to see more of him. I got to see him when he steps up to a higher division and a higher level of football. That's it. I'm out. I'm done. That's my explanation.
And the only response to that would be that you have to do what he did, though, at that level first to even be considered for that. If you're playing the Humboldt States, you better dominate him. When you fight Ben Whittaker, you better do what he just did to allow us to get excited.
Yes, and I like the way he did it. Not just pure blast-out ability, but he did it with a good IQ. He did it with good eyes. He did it with good form. He made it look good. He got rid of the guy the way that good fighters get rid of guys that are at a lower level than them.
Yeah. Well said. We'll keep it moving. That was a great performance for Ben Whittaker. Congratulations to Andy Lee as well. We know he's only going to get better. Will he stay active? That's the main question. 4 fights last year, only 1 fight in 2025. We'll see the progression coming up in 2026. That's it for all the fight action recaps. Now, I do want to get into some big previews. December 6th, we're going to start with boxing. We're going to also touch on that UFC 323 main event, your boy Merab. Before we do so, I want to start with the main event. This is going to be live. It's going to be on Amazon, San Antonio, Texas. We got Lamont Roach versus Pitbull Cruz. It's for the vacant WBC 140-pound title. Now, we are going to be giving out some picks here today, as we always do at the ropes. You always get more at the ropes. We could go deeper. We have more time. It's Teddy's breakdowns, typed up reports, prop picks, you name it. We're also going to do another live stream on Saturday. And on this Saturday, we're going to start it off on our YouTube channel here, The Fight, with 3 fights, with Fulton and Foster. Then we're going to go to the co-main event, Janibek and Lara. And then for the main event, which we're about to preview right now for Roach and Cruz, we're going to switch over no longer on YouTube, and we're going to have that live on Zoom for members only at the ropes. So a lot of action coming up this Saturday. So I just want to get right into it, Bud, with that being said. And I want to hear your preview of Roach versus Cruz. It feels like Roach is the younger man, the fresher man. But actually, by age, he's the older man going into this one at 30 years of age, with Cruz at 27. Just want to get right into it. Your breakdown, what should we expect for this one?
That's a good way to start it. You're starting it with a good boxing IQ, and I'll tell you why. I never judge a fighter's age chronologically. I judge it by the kind of fights they've been in, the kind of punishment they've taken, the amount of punches they've taken. Cruz has more miles on his odometer than Roach does, because the Roach's style, he hasn't driven his car on as many tough roads as Cruz has. He's been pretty much on smooth highway. Cruz has been, through the back roads. He's been through the rivers and the mountains and, running over a lot of logs in the woods. And sometimes, crashing into a tree or two. So, having said that, you're right. And that's a nice point to bring out to the people. Roach he's the better technical fighter. Let's get that out of the way. He's the purist. He's the sweet science guy, right? He's the guy who throws his punches straighter, more accurately probably. But he's also the guy who's probably not as much fun to watch as Cruz. We love Cruz. Not that Roach ain't fun to watch. I love to watch a surgeon at work, and he could be a surgeon. I love to watch, not that I want to see anybody cut up, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I love to watch an artist paint a picture. And Roach paints a picture. He can be a Rembrandt. But I also love, I got grandkids. I love guys that throw around the paint all over the freaking place and make a mess. And when my grandkids do it, I say it's beautiful. And when Cruz does it, it can be beautiful. It can be like, wow, look at all those colors thrown all over the place. Wow, that's fun to look at. And Cruz is fun to look at. Will straight beat round. Let's start there. Will the straight right hand and jabs of Roach beat the wider left hooks and even right looping punches, but left hooks of Cruz? That's part of the question. That you could probably start right there. But that would favor the argument for Roach. And I see why he's the favorite. He's the betting line favorite. That's why. One of the reasons why. And because of his performance against Tank. But I can make an argument for Cruz. If Roach don't hurt him, which he might with a right hand, in between one of those wide hooks, but if he don't hurt him, Cruz throws more punches. I'll make it real simple. He throws more punches. He's a busier guy. He gets his engine going, and it gets going. He'll outwork you. Roach is the kind of guy that could, if he don't fight a meticulous fight, which he might, controlling range, sharp shooting, placing punches. If he doesn't do that, Roach can get out. He can get out hustled by a guy like Cruz. It could happen. It could happen. I'm thinking about both things. The boxing purist of Roach and the guy who just keeps on going with Cruz. Keeps on chugging. Keeps on chucking. And if you like to make an argument for Cruz, you fight a guy who's pretty good defensively like Roach. What do you want to do? You want to go to the body. Cruz does that. He goes to the body. You chop it's like you chop the bottom of the tree falls. You kill the body like the old timers would say, the head falls. So you have a real interesting matchup there. Real interesting. I will save my pick. I think I got you guys on the edge. A little bit. I will save that pick for the ropes. Is that fair, bud? Because, the ropes are, they're members. They got a special membership. I'll save that. I think it's an interesting pick. I think I laid it out pretty good. You could make it out. That's why it's interesting. Yeah, Roach is the favorite. He's a decent favorite. But you can make an argument on both sides. Where will I fall? Which side will I fall?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to know, come over, check out the ropes. We've been getting out a lot of free plays here in winners. And we're going to give some more here for some of the other fights coming up. But we're going to save that main event for the ropes only. And if you want to know, again, come check it out. We'll put up the site here. You could go to TeddyAtlasBoxing.com. That will direct you to our Circle app, which is the ropes. With that being said, but I for me, look at this fight. And the breakdown, you made the argument, like you said, for both sides. I flash back to the Valenzuela versus Cruz fight and that style that Valenzuela fought. Now, he was controlling the outside and pop-shotting him a little bit on the way in. And will Roach do that? Or will Cruz, like you said, get inside, get the geography that he wants, and outwork him? I guess my question going into this one is the size, right? Roach has been fighting at 130 pounds. He fought at 133 versus Tank. This is going to be taking place at 140 pounds, where Cruz has been fighting more at 135 and moved up to 140. So two ways to look at it. Kind of like the Haney conversation we talked about last week. Will this help Roach? Has he been draining himself and grow into this frame and be the naturally bigger, stronger man? Or is it going to hurt him moving up to 140? And will Cruz, the shorter man who needs to be inside, maybe be too strong on the inside?
I'm glad you mentioned the Valenzuela fight that obviously Cruz lost his title. We were there. You and me watched that fight.
Yeah, we were in L.A. It was on the undercard of Crawford and Madrimov.
Yeah, and actually I picked Valenzuela, if you remember. He
was a 2-1 underdog. I remember very well.
Yeah. Listen, even a blind squirrel gets an acorn once in a while. So,
Well, 13 out of 14 on the ropes. I wouldn't use that, but let's keep it hot.
I'm like Harry Greb. I got one good eye. So, and I find those acorns once in a while. So, Venezuela really did, if you will, show the blueprint to how to beat Cruz. Will Roach follow that blueprint? I don't know. Roach, I'll leave it with this. Roach, I like Roach. I like both these fighters. Roach to me, it doesn't always come down to your ability, your talent, all of, obviously the things that most people would think that it comes down to. For me, and I used to say this when I was doing Friday Night Fights on ESPN, it comes down to temperament. What is your temperament? What moves you? What is your personality? What are you more prone to do? Because that's how you feel. That's how you look at things. That's how you live your life. Are you an aggressive guy? Are you normally a laid-back guy? A guy who thinks things out, doesn't just react to things. That, to me, was always more important than just your ability, because that would tell me how you were going to use your ability. You don't know how many arguments I would have with guys that thought they knew so much about boxing, and they would say, but Teddy, this guy can fight on the inside, and he's strong, and he should just chase this guy out of the ring. And then the fight would take place, and he didn't do it. And he'd look at me and say, I don't understand. If that's your problem, you didn't understand. Yeah, he was the guy that had the strength and the power and the body that looked like he should chase the guy out of the ring. But he didn't have the mind for it. He didn't have the temperament for it. He wasn't a guy that thought that way, to use his body and his ability that way. So he wasn't going to do that. He was going to take that strong, everything you're talking about, and he was still going to fight on the outside. God, man, I don't go into a doctor's office and tell a doctor, how to do diagnosis. I don't go into a lawyer's office and tell him, okay, this is how we're going to do the case, and this is what we're going to do when we see the judge. No. I stay quiet and I say, yes, sir. Okay. Yes, I will take that 3 times a day before I go to bed. Twice. Yes, I will do that. And yes, sir, I will show up to court with a suit on. Yes, sir. I mean, sometimes, I don't know. I know I'm going into a place that I'm known to go into, but sometimes, like, I even hear some of these announcers and some of the play-by-play, not even the color, the play-by-play. And they're like, a play-by-play is supposed to just set up just set the stage. And the color guy is supposed to actually tell you what's on the stage and why it's there. And I see some of these blow-by-blow guys, they think they're color guys. Like, what did you do in the sport to know enough to be a color guy? I don't know. I'm sorry. I digress. Please, sorry. Go, move.
Yeah, that's if you want the full diagnosis, you want Teddy to make you feel better and get your prescription filled, so to speak, come over to the ropes. Cruz is plus 190. Lamont Roach, I believe, minus 260. We're going to have it all there. Full report, props, you name it, from Teddy. With that being said, we're going to keep it moving. We're going to go to the co-main event. Now, this co-main event we touched on in the opener. We will be doing a live stream Fight Companion Teddy's commentary here on the fight, here at YouTube. So for this one, bud, we have Janibek Alimkhanuly fighting Erislandy Lara. Now, Janibek has 2 belts at 160 pounds. Lara has 1. So this is for 3 out of the 4 on the line at 160 pounds. For me, Janibek, the southpaw, he's become the boogeyman at 160 pounds. There's another champion besides Lara there, Carlos Adames, and there was a guy named Hamza Shiraz who has since moved up to 168. But Janibek, he's been champion since 2022. He's got 5 title defenses. He's 17-0, but he doesn't have the name on his resume. He hasn't got the dancing partner. Lara continues his great, amazing career. The standout Cuban, multiple-time world champion. He has not lost in quite some time. We think he's 42 years old now. Not quite sure with the Cubans always. But I want to see, is this the coming out party for Janibek? Is this the name he needs to launch him to bigger stardom and bigger fights? Or does the great Cuban pull off the major upset and add to his incredible Hall of Fame resume?
Yeah. Lara's, to get an idea how long Lara's been around. Wow. I mean, 20 years ago, I think I was calling his fights on ESPN. I was calling his early fights on ESPN when he first came over here.
And he hasn't lost since 2019. I just want to put that out there to Jared Hurd. Obviously, he had a loss to Paul Williams, controversial one to some, to Canelo. But go ahead. But I'm sorry to cut you off. Just wanted to say that.
No, you're right. Look, Lara's, both these guys are southpaws, battle of southpaws. They go about their business completely different. Janibek goes to get you. Lara made his career, made his bones, if you will, controlling range, counterpunching, being defensively tremendous, controlling the pace of the fight. He doesn't waste anything. He's a sweet science man. And Janibek is a wrecking crew, but he also deserves more credit than that. He moves his head. You can hit him. You can hit him. Keeps that lead right hand low. Sometimes he'll stand up a little straight. Sometimes he'll pull back a little bit in front of you. You can catch him. But he's a good banger. He goes to the body, puts punches together. He's got that amateur pedigree just like Lara does. He's 10 years younger than Lara. I don't know if he's the boogeyman, because to me, there's only one boogeyman. It's John Wick. And he died in his last episode of movies, so I don't know if he... what's his name? I don't want your wife to get mad at me. She's Ukrainian.
I never get it right, and you keep asking me, and I should get it right, but I go with Baba Yaga. I like it.
Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga! I hope Lana don't get mad. Your beautiful Ukrainian wife that, of course, that is a Russian
Baba
word.
Yaga. It sounds better.
Lara has changed a little bit. You change when you get older. He used to use his legs a lot more, control the range really, perfectly. Again, he's got a long reach, that long right-handed jab, counterpunch, keep you from gaining range, gaining any ground on him, keeping you out there with the jab, setting you up with the jab. And then when you try to get to him, you go through that neighborhood, he would mug you with uppercuts and counters. He fights you a little bit more now. He does. He's 42. His legs aren't what they used to be. He uses his wiliness, his game, of course. He uses that experience. He uses it in a different way now, in a different dimension, in a different form. He'll use it fighting inside where he'll tie you up to, but he'll use it fighting inside with you sometimes. Again, closer quarters sometimes. He is a little more available than he used to be. He still prides himself with defense and obviously a great boxing acumen and IQ. It's going to be an interesting fight. For me, I have Janibek winning. I think Lara's best chance to win the fight is to hurt Janibek. And he can punch a little bit, Lara, especially recently. But his recent knockouts, where he wasn't known for knockouts, has been for two reasons. One, yes, he's sitting down more, trying to hurt you more. But also, yes, he's fighting less opposition recently. He has not been fighting. Yeah, his resume, his overall resume is much greater than Janibek's, because Janibek hasn't been around as long as Lara and hasn't won multiple titles the way Lara has. But recently, Lara's resume has not been great with some of the guys that he's been not just beating, but knocking out. So, if he doesn't hurt Janibek, I can't see him winning a decision. I think he has to either knock out Janibek, I think he has to at least drop him or hurt him, maybe more than once. Otherwise, Janibek is a busy offensive fighter. I don't see him getting outworked against a guy who has built a career by being conservative. I don't see it. So, do I see Lara hurting Janibek? The first half of the fight, I could. That's the danger point for me. That's the danger point. I'm going to give you my pick. I'm going to say Janibek gets past that danger point, and I'm going to say that he wins. And now the question is, does he win by decision, or does he do something that nobody has ever done with Lara? Stop him. Lara's been on the floor 3 times. I know that chances are, if you love Lara, you're saying he might lose, but, he'll go the distance. He might, no replacement for experience, but I'm going with Janibek to win the fight, period. And then I might do a small play that maybe Janibek becomes the first guy to stop Lara by going to the body. No better way to take away a defensive fighter's prowess and ability to move their head than to paralyze the body. No better way. Maybe he goes to the body enough from the beginning and wears down a 42-year-old where before the final bell, again, he could get a stoppage. Maybe. At the end of the day, the safer bet for me is just Janibek being able to beat a fighter who's been tremendous, Lara.
Loved your breakdown, bud. Made a lot of sense to me. I guess for me, I give a lot of credit to Janibek for taking this fight. And the reason why I say that, I know it's a third opportunity here. The Cuban Lara is 42 years of age. He has been in versus softer touches of opposition, like you said, whether it was Thomas Lamana or Spike Sullivan or most recently Danny Garcia at 160 pounds. Not Danny Garcia that we're used to at 140, 147 in his prime. With those softer touches, I feel like there's more pressure on Janibek. That Janibek almost has to knock him out to impress. And I know a win gets him a third belt and maybe then Adames or somebody next and bigger than this. But I do feel like against the guy who's a counterpuncher, who takes the air out of the ball in Lara, who's so experienced, and the points of just what I said at 42 years of age, it almost is like a no-win situation for Janibek if he doesn't get the knockout.
Yeah, that's a nice point. And that's a concern for me handicapping a fight, because that can happen. Fighters are not machines. They're human beings. They have emotions. They think about things like you just brought out. And if Janibek does think about that, and he does get to the point where he's a little over anxious, he's looking for that big shot, it gives Lara a better chance to survive the big shots, a better chance to go the distance. So if you think he's going to do that, I would take Lara by, that he's going to last, not to win, but to last. I'm thinking, and I'm gambling on the fact that Janibek will not get caught up in that. He's old enough. He's experienced enough. He had an amateur background enough where he's not a kid. Even though Lara's, a lot older or a bit older, he's not a kid. And that he's been around the block a few times in this boxing business. And he knows enough not to fall into that trap of looking for one shot at a time against a good defensive fighter. That he's still got to use the jab. He's still got to set the table. He's still got to put punches together. He can't force it. He's got to let it come to him to a certain extent. He can't just go out there and just, like I said, look to knock it over the fence every round. But if he does, to your point, that is better for Lara. Because one thing Lara's been doing for a long time, it's been avoiding punches. And if you're going to throw single shots at him, even at 42, he's going to avoid them.
Absolutely love it. And if you want to knock one out of the park, come take a look at the ropes for Teddy's picks. And can't wait for that one, bud. Excited for this whole card. Before we keep it moving and give another preview coming up on that card, I do want to take a quick pause and thank today's sponsor, Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens, the all-in-one daily drink to support better health and peak performance. These guys spent 10 plus years with top nutritionists and doctors to create this formula. It's made from 75 whole food sourced ingredients. It has vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, and antioxidants. This is like an insurance policy for your body's health. Athletic Greens is giving our listeners 3 travel packs for free and a free welcome kit including vitamin D3 and K2 and AG1 travel packs when you first subscribe. So whether you're looking to boost your energy levels, support your immune system, or address gut health, Athletic Greens is the way to go. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/atlas. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/atlas. All right, bud. We're going to close it out for that card there in the boxing world. And this one is going to be O'Shaquie Foster versus Stephen Fulton. This is for Foster's WBC 130-pound title. We're going to be doing a live stream, as we said. That's going to be here on YouTube, the fight for this fight. And we're also going to have a preview and prediction now, as well as more from Teddy on this fight at the ropes. So with that being said, bud, let's get into it. Foster versus Fulton. This is going to be the first fight back after a controversial decision versus Conceição of regaining the belt and defending the title now for Foster. And Fulton, man who's won some belts at 122, 126 pounds, moving up. Can he do it at 130? The naturally bigger man, the longer man, Foster. Fulton, the more experienced and maybe the better resume. Want to hear your thoughts? What can we expect on this one?
Yeah, Foster's the favorite. Not a huge favorite, but he's the favorite, and I think he should be. And styles make fights. I think that's part of it. Foster's the kind of guy, he could be a straight-up boxer. He'll look to press. He'll look to go into. He's a well-rounded fighter. He can fight inside, outside. But he's predisposed a little bit to fighting well or maybe better on the outside, where he throws everything nice. He's a sharpshooter. He throws nice, straight, short punches, concise punches, accurate punches. He's got that kind of style. He doesn't waste anything. He is a guy that could get outworked, can get out. Sometimes his offense goes on. It goes on leave. It goes on a vacation for a minute. Sometimes he'll get into defensive moves without the offensive connection with it or partnership of it right away. He'll do a little shoulder roll, his version of a shoulder roll, and sometimes stand straight up. And by doing that, by turning his shoulder, by going defensive, by having his, going into a little bit, I would call it a peekaboo, but a defensive sort of zone without offense coming back, he will give you a chance to get your punches off, to catch up if you have to catch up or go ahead. and maybe outwork him in those areas where he might go, again, defensive a little too long. But he's a good, solid, technically, based fighter. Again, everything by the book. Doesn't do anything really where he gets sloppy. He does everything pretty. Even when he gets inside. When he does go inside, he's not throwing a million punches, but he's throwing the right punches. He'll throw the uppercut. He'll try to put a hook with it. He'll go to the body. He'll place shots. He'll throw educated punches. Fulton likes to counterpunch. He's just shorter man here. He likes to counterpunch, but he's a game guy. And if he has to go, and I think he's going to have to go forward against Foster, he will. He would rather counter. He moves his head well. He has been on the floor. He has been stopped by the great Inoue. Yes, by the great Inoue. But he was stopped. He was knocked out by him. And then he has been dropped in another fight. So you can hurt him. And the reason I bring that up is what you brought up. He's moving up again in weight. So he could be vulnerable there. Foster's not a huge puncher, but he's an accurate puncher. He's a guy that can catch you with that straight right hand. And Fulton has been hit with that straight right hand. And Foster can throw it off the counter. He can throw it off the jab. He can throw it either way. And he can use the uppercut on the inside. And Fulton leans forward a little on the inside. It looks like I'm picking Foster. I know. It does. And I'm pointing towards, again, justification of why Foster would be the favorite. I'd make him the favorite. But you don't win fights on paper. You win them in the ring. And there's so many other elements like grit, resiliency, determination. Fulton has those. Foster does too. But I think it's going to be called on Fulton to use those. And to use them more so than Foster, because Foster has an edge in some of those physical areas where he won't be forced to use them as much. And when you're forced to use them, sometimes your performance, sometimes you have a kind of performance that outdoes your ability because you knew you had to have that kind of performance. You just knew you had to have it. I think at some point, Fulton might get to that point. I think he could get hurt by Foster. He could even get dropped by Foster. He could even get stopped by Foster. But again, Foster, not a huge puncher. Not a huge finisher. I see this fight being a real tight fight. A real close fight. I'm going to give you a crazy prediction. You get good odds on it. I could see the possibility of a draw. You get plus 1,500 if you lay 100. I believe that's what you get.
Yeah, 15-1 on the draw. This is just about a pick-em fight. As you said, Foster, I believe, is minus 120, minus 115, slight favorite.
I think that it's going to be close. The possibility of sparks, some, fireworks is more on the side of Foster. If that happens, obviously on the scorecards, that will give him a good advantage if that happens. At the end of the day, I see Fulton down the stretch taking advantage of some of those dead spots of Foster offensively. Just taking advantage and outworking him maybe, out-hustling him maybe. Maybe even out-gritting him just a little bit, even though I think Foster has plenty of grit. At the end of the day, maybe a slight favoritism towards the slight underdog here. But I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't go crazy on this fight. It's a close fight. That's why I said I wouldn't think it's impossible to be a draw. put a little peanut just for fun on that. If you have it, never bet just to bet. And never bet recklessly, please. Be responsible. Only bet if you have something extra. Otherwise, don't bet. Don't bet. I'll say it again. Don't bet. Just watch it. And maybe me pointing out these things makes your watching entertainment a little better. You know, it gives you something to look for that makes it maybe just a little more interesting for you without having to have a wager. But if you do go with a little wager, I'm saying it's going to be very close. Part of me wants to pick Foster because he's technically that guy. He's that stand-up, pretty boxer that really does things by the numbers. You know, kind of like coloring by the numbers. He's going to shoot that jab. He's going to shoot that straight right hand. You know, he's going to shoot that left hook to the body. He's going to do everything nice and crisp and straight. But he's not going to do a lot of it. He's not going to do a lot of it. Last time I went to take the grandkids the other day to get ice cream, my granddaughter, she got a large. My grandson got a small cup of ice cream. You know, I'm going to say Fulton gets a large cup of ice cream. I'm going to say that maybe he puts a few sprinkles on it. My granddaughter put gummy bears on it. I'm going with Fulton. 2 gummy bears to 1 with a slight edge with the larger cup of ice cream.
Yeah, a lot to break down there. I loved it. It makes complete sense to me. It's a tough one to analyze and to handicap. And the play of the draw, I like a lot because of the reasons you just broke down. Go back, watch the last 3 fights for Foster. They've all been split decisions. First to Nova, then the split decision loss to Conceição, and then when he regains the belt in the rematch, again by split decision to Conceição. And just 2 fights ago, Fulton versus Castro wins by split decision. I think you laid it out. I think it is that close according to odds makers of who will win. But I like the play. I like where you're going here. And I love the value at 15-1 on the draw for this one. With that being said, that pick will also, again, guys, be available at the ropes with Teddy's breakdown and explanations of what we covered here. And in more depth and in a typed out report. And that wraps up all the previews for the boxing. Before signing off, we got one more, and this is going to be another pick preview from you and also available at the ropes. We're not just boxing guys. We do combat, and Teddy has a special one for UFC 323, the main event. That's going to be our main man, a friend of the show, and a good friend of yours, Ray Longo, the trainer of Merab Dvalishvili, putting his title on the line and fighting the rematch versus Petr. Now, 2 guys that have been on a roll, 2 guys that have earned it the hard way. Merab on the way up, now trying to make history, going for his 4th title defense this year at the bantamweight division. And Jan trying to get back what was his at one point. Has not lost since his loss to Merab in 2023. Merab enters a big favorite. I just want to get right to it. I want to hear your breakdown, your thoughts. Who wins this one?
Merab's winning. Excuse me. The way the machine is running right now, I mean, you know, unless Ray didn't give him 4 quarts of oil, which I know he did. Ray always gives an oil change. So Ray's one of the greats, Ray Longo. So, and his partner, former UFC champion. So
That's Sarah.
Yes. And great team. Merab, he's a phenomenon. He really is. He is even the great commentators, you know, like DC and Rogan and you know, all of them. And they're all great because they know what the hell they're talking about, unlike some of the boxing guys, unfortunately, that just get put in there. But these guys all know the sport, and they know what the hell they're talking about. And it's a pleasure to listen to them, whether it's Anthony Smith, whether it's Chael Sonnen, whether it's Dominic Cruz, Paul Felder. I mean, every one of them. this guy is so unusual, Merab. He just doesn't stop. And he's gotten better. He just freaking, I mean, I always say when you win the title, you get 30% better. That's pretty scary when you're talking about Merab. Here's the thing. I'll keep this one short and sweet. Merab wins. I don't see him get beat. If he does get beat, it'll be with the striking. Nobody, for the most part, is beating Merab on the floor. Jan is good on the floor in his own right, but he's not at the level of Merab on the floor. Jan is good at defending takedowns, surviving takedowns too against Merab, but Merab is better at taking it down and working you on the floor. So Merab gets to his geography on the floor, he's going to be hard to beat. But Merab's striking has only gotten better. I mean, he keeps it simple. He keeps it standard. It's a jab. It's a straight right hand. He'll go to the body too. But what he does really well, Merab, is when you throw and you go back after you're done, Merab will follow you if you go straight back. And he'll throw 4 or 5 in a row, left, right, boom, 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 boom. Pistons. Just simple, boom, 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 boom. Pistons. And they're simple, they're hard, they're straight, and they're effective. And Jan does go back straight on the line. He does. And Merab will look for that, as he did the first time. Even though the first time, I think he broke a record for takedown attempts. I mean, and he was taking him, I think he tried to take him down like, I don't know how many he executed, but it was like close to 30. Somewhere in that neighborhood of actually trying to take down Jan. Again, Jan is a tough guy. He's a solid guy. He's a good striker. He's got a good straight right hand. The hope for Jan here, I think he has to hurt Merab or knock him out to win. I don't think he can win. I don't think it's possible to win a 5-round decision right now against Merab. I think that Jan, hope has to be with a straight right hand. Catch Merab coming in. Merab will come in this front door. He can be a little predictable. There can be a little fat, a little width in those left rights, just a little bit. That could be enough for Jan to time Merab coming in with a straight right hand and maybe dropping him. Maybe, that's his chance. And I think that there's a chance he could do that. That's his chance. And he's going to have to execute that to have any chance to win the fight. I think the reason why I give Jan a little bit of a chance, even though he got dominated the first time, and he did. He got dominated every round in their first fight. The reason I give him a little chance is Jan didn't know what hit him. He didn't really know what to expect the first time. He didn't know. Even though Merab had won 8 in a row going into that, he wasn't known as the Merab he is known as now. I know he was still the machine, but now everyone knows. And I think Jan got, again, caught by surprise that this guy, he blitzed him. He just blitzed him. And he didn't know what the heck was going on until it was too late. He knows now. He's experienced. He's prepared now for what he has to do and what he's going to be faced with. That's going to give him a little edge. Can that be the difference? I think if you want to take an underdog, the only thing you could do is take Jan by knockout. I don't think he's winning the decision. You take a small play that maybe he catches him. At the end of the day, I like Merab. I like
Merab too.
I like him to win. But one other thing. The only play I would make, besides what I said, if you really want to do something crazy and put a small play that if you just want to hope that Jan wins, that he maybe catches him, but my play would be Merab, but he's a prohibitive favorite, I guess. And it would be to go the distance. I think Jan is experienced enough. I think that he's forewarned enough. And he's obviously tough enough to go the distance with Merab.
Yeah, I could see that. The distance is a big favorite, as is Merab. Like you said, Merab, you got to lay minus 500. Listening to you, it sounds like Merab in a parlay with some of the other picks is probably the play. I get what you're saying for the value for Jan. I don't see Merab losing. I'm never going against Merab. And if I want to look for value, I might try 7-1. Merab submits him and try to find it that way as opposed to going to decision. But at the end of the day, I like Merab to win as well. Just piggyback off what you said, 30% better when you become a world champ. Well, I got the chance to speak to Ray Longo at your foundation dinner, our foundation dinner, Dr. Atlas Foundation, last week. And he said exactly what you said. And that is so scary to believe at 34 years of age that Merab is only getting better. And I think he really is. I expect another unbelievable performance. But what makes it interesting to me, and maybe people aren't giving Jan too much credit for, and you are, he's never lost decisively to anybody in his career except for Merab. Go back and look at all his losses, whether it was the disqualification, controversial, when he lost his title to Aljamain Sterling, or any of the other losses, whether it was Sean O'Malley or the rematch versus Sterling, or early in his career, every loss besides Merab by split decision. So this makes it a little closer in that way. And at the end of the day, if Jan falls short, bud, I don't think he'll ever want to do anything to do with Aljamain Sterling or Merab Dvalishvili. He'd be 0-4 against that tag team of those friends there if he falls short again on this one.
No, well put, bud. Again, just a summation here. What is the line for it to go the full distance? Do you have it?
Yeah, the distance, yes, it will go the distance. Minus 380, almost a 4-1 favorite.
I'll lay that. I know it's gamble because I already said Jan's best chance is to hurt him. So I get it. But
we don't lay that in picks. We don't give that out. But I get what you're saying. You were saying you would put that more in a parlay. I would piggyback off of that and say I wouldn't do that. I would personally just take Jan and lay the extra 120 at that point. Not Jan, Merab, sorry, at minus 500. Just in case something crazy happens, you got Merab to win if he did submit him later in the fight.
Yes, I agree. But I just, again, from my viewpoint, my expertise, if you will, if I have any, my eye is that when you got an experienced guy like Jan, you made a good point. He's always competitive in a rematch. And that speaks to why I'm saying this, that he learns something when he loses. And he learned something. I know Merab dominated him. He did. He dominated him. But he learned something. I'll say it again. I think he got blitzed. I think he got a little bit caught by surprise, even though you shouldn't be caught by surprise in these levels of professionalism. But I think he'll be prepared now. I do. Style is pretty good matchup for Merab because Jan does kind of come at you in a one-dimensional way, straight in, straight out. And Merab likes to go straight in so he can catch him going straight out. But I think Jan's going to be looking to catch him with a counter right hand as Merab comes straight in a little bit of a one-dimensional path sometimes. So it should be nothing but action, nothing but physicality, nothing but two great wills versus each other. But as you said, I second that. I cannot go against the machine. Man, that guy is, he's fun to watch. He's fun. I'm wondering if he did get 30% better, what does that mean in this fight? Where he dominated, but does that mean in this fight he gets the takedown as you suggested? Maybe he gets the submission, or even though Jan's tough to submit, impossible. Or does he pick him up in the air like he picked O'Malley up in the air? Does he pick him up in the freaking air and like walk him over somewhere and then, do kind of like Joe Pesci did and my cousin Vinny in the courtroom and say, I'm through with this guy? I don't know.
Well, it's only one way to find out. Tune in on Saturday. It's going to be in my backyard here in Las Vegas, T-Mobile Arena. And again, come check us out. The Ropes, more of these previews, breakdowns, reports from Teddy. We're going to be live streaming. There's so much more. Take a peek. And a reminder, Saturday night here at the Fight YouTube channel, we are going to do the live stream in the boxing world for the Fulton Foster fight, as well as Lara versus Janibek, and then switch over to members only for the main event at the Ropes. So with that being said, bud, we covered a lot of fights. Great recap, previews, predictions. You got me excited. You got me ready. I'll let you sign off until next week.
Yeah, I just sign off with what I try to always. I'm wishing the best to everyone. I'm grateful. We just finished Thanksgiving. I'm grateful myself. I talked about what are we grateful for. We should be thinking about that. I'm grateful for, as always, my family. I'm grateful for all of you that you take time out of your day to actually come and spend some of it with us. I'm very grateful. Very grateful. And with that, I'll say God bless. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And enjoy, really enjoy those cold turkey sandwiches with mayonnaise and a little. I know my son don't like mayonnaise. That's a long story. Someday I'll tell you about it. When he was a kid, I made a sandwich, a little too much mayonnaise. At the end of the day, I love mayonnaise. Turkey sandwiches, little mayonnaise, salt and pepper. Oh, God bless.
Yep, I don't love mayonnaise, but I love you, bud. Thank you as always, and thank you all for being with us. Please like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys again next week.